A very good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, ladies, gentlemen, boys, girls, whatever place it is you're tuned on to the Life Signatures Radio. It is another day, another opportunity for us to add one more episode onto the podcast. You found us in the middle of a series. We're talking about raising spirit-led children. And before we can go there, this podcast is always going to be about purpose, productivity, and resilience. Three wonderful pillars of life that I do believe if you pluck out one of them from anyone's life, it becomes so difficult for them to make a successful life. Purpose, productivity, resilience. You cannot be successful without any one of those. And that's why this podcast is always going to be delving on those three things: educational, inspirational, motivational podcast. If you're looking for a virtual incubator for purpose, this is it. So we were in the middle of a series. We've been doing this for quite a while, talking about raising spirit-led children. And we've been looking at some of the ways you can know you are not doing that. We are already on number 5, and let's continue going deeper into this today. Stay tuned.
Welcome to the Life Signatures podcast with Lawrence Namale. Lawrence is a life coach, author, and keynote speaker who loves to tackle different topics on purpose, productivity, and resilience. His mission in life is to awaken all your boundless possibilities available in you. Life Signatures podcast is dedicated to bring to reality every single person who knows that deep down in their gut, there's got to be more to life than this. And now, here is your host, Lawrence Namale.
There are some things that do operate in life in autopilot, as in the sun, the moon, the stars, the weather, kind of like they're on autopilot. Although these days we keep hearing people telling us about global warming and ESG and all that stuff. But there are some things that are you don't think about them. We don't think about the sun rising and the sun setting. Of course, scientists have told us that it's not the sun that is rising and setting. It is the planet that is moving, rotating around the earth, around the sun. Anyway, there are things that are automatic, but one of the things that is not automatic are matters related to the spirit. It's very interesting because we're living in this physical, natural world. The things of nature can actually be automatic as long as you've created the environment around them. A tree will grow to the tallest it can be without interference, just by itself, automatically, because that's how the system has been set. But when it comes to things related to the spirit, we've got to be intentional. There's nothing from the spiritual realm that operates without intention. And therefore, when we're talking about raising spirit-led children, we should approach it from the angle of being intentional. In that if we are not going to be intentional, then whatever is automatic is whatever is natural, that is just going to be the one that is going to be flowing. And that's too much words, but let me just do a recap for you. 1, you are not raising a spirit-led child if you do not teach them to cherish their inner compass. 2, you're not raising a spirit-led child if you do not teach them the importance of self-extraction. 3, you're not raising a spirit-led child if you do not nurture and nourish their creative capacities. 4, you're not raising a spirit-led child if you do not teach them the value of personal development. And 5, which we studied a couple of days back, actually yesterday, you're not raising a spirit-led child if you do not teach them to be humane. Now, these things, I have spoken about them in depth in the previous episode. So if you wanted to go back maybe 10 episodes back, you can just go back and start re-looking at them and re-listening to them, so that you can be able to get the gist of the matter. I cannot go back all the way and do a thorough recap. It will be like, you know what I'm saying. So today, let us continue going deeper into this. You are not raising a spirit-led child if you are not teaching them to be humane. That is number 5. And we've talked about the spirit of selfishness, which we dealt with yesterday. And we've talked about selflessness, which we also dealt with it. Now, how do you know the characteristics of the selfish spirit? The one that holds on to hoards and thinks about only itself, only its survival, only its comfort, only its preservation. How do you know? How do you tell that this is a selfish spirit, so that you can be able to root it out? How do you tell? Today I'm going to look at one thing that can help you to identify that selfish spirit, but then we're going to look at other ways in which you can identify them, maybe 4 other ways in the succeeding episode. So today, it is a limiting spirit. The selfish spirit is a limiting spirit. This, to be selfish is to think that you're the center of the universe. I saw a graphic yesterday where they had drawn, you remember, if you watched Lion King, this analogy of the circle of life, and they had drawn 2 kinds of circles where the different species were in one graphic. The different species were in the circle. They were forming the circle actually, but then another one, they drew a circle where there are other species, and then at the center there was one person, and they say that is a spirit of selfishness, a characteristic of selfishness. The selfish spirit always thinks about oneself all the time, and probably, by the way, they might not even know that that's what they're doing. That's why I said earlier on that we've got to be intentional in matters related to the spirit. There are some things, by the way, you might just be doing them by nature, and you don't even understand, you don't even know that you are in the wrong until someone comes and points out and said, "Hey, Lawrence, I noticed that you did A, B, C, and D." And that's when it dawns on you, oh my God, yes, wait a minute. And then you maybe become contrite, you realize your mistake, and then you make an amendment and you make a change, maybe over the course of time, and so on and so forth. That's where intentionality comes in. That's where we scratch the CD of this automatic selfishness that it's just kind of human. It's like a human bug. We kind of want to fend off for ourselves just naturally. Yet hidden inside of us, there is the spirit of humanity, which is selfless, humane. To be humane is to be selfless. It is actually of the spirit to be humane. And so a limiting spirit inherently, it dims your vision. It dims your vision. For a great vision always is going to be a vision that speaks about the betterment of other people. But when you're only thinking about yourself, guess what? Your circle is smaller, and that means you have a limiting belief. You have even a limiting spirit. And even though you can be great as an individual, you can only go so far, because you've not thought about me. You've not thought about the other person and the other person and the other person. Because if your vision is going to be thinking about other people, you realize that it is big, that you cannot do it yourself. You cannot even do it with another human being. You also need the participation of the divine. That's why a limiting spirit is a selfish spirit, or a selfish spirit is a limiting spirit, because it doesn't think of other people. True, you might ascend to the levels, high levels in many spheres of society, but as long as you are not impacting and influencing this world, as long as we're not feeling the signature, your life signature is not being felt in this world, you have already limited yourself. And for a reason, that self-limiting belief, or it might not even be a belief, it's just a life of limiting yourself. You might not even understand, you might not even know that I limited myself. You might be thinking, hey, wait a minute, I am fending for myself, fending for my family, fending for my kids, fending for my wife, fending for them, and that's just about it, which is a good thing, by the way. It's part of fending for others. But the extreme form of selfishness is only think about yourself, your preservation, your survival, and in very extreme cases, only about your comfort at the expense of other people. It is a limiting spirit. A limiting spirit. Very few people ever make it in life being driven by selfish ambition. It eats people up in the end. Selfish ambition never takes people far. Those who do will always end up destroying their world, or even the world itself. We have a list of people starting with Hitler, and even before Hitler, there are very many people who had selfish ambition that it never beefed up this world, it never increased, it never improved this world. Always destroyed their world, and in the end, it destroyed themselves. There's a scripture, the very sinister, not sinister, but very scary scripture that says, in the end, the tongue is devoured by hell itself. Let me look for that scripture and just give it to you. Even as we wind up in the Bible, the book of James chapter 3, when you go to verse 3, it says, indeed, we put bits in horses' mouth that they may obey us, and we turn their whole body. Look also at the ships. Although they are so large and they are driven by fierce winds, they are turned by a very small rudder, whatever the pilot desires. Even so, the tongue is a little member that boasts great things. See how great a forest is lit. See how a great forest a little fire kindles, and the tongue is a fire, a world of iniquity. The tongue is also set among our members, that it defiles the whole body and sets on fire the course of nature, and it is set on fire by hell itself in the end. You get? That's the analogy that I can give you about selfishness or selfish ambition. It sets on fire everything around it, but in the end it's also set on fire. In other words, if you are selfish, or if you're raising someone who is selfish, they will destroy everything and anything around them. Even though in their destruction they might be beefing themselves up, but in the end, there's gonna be an end. In the end, themselves, they get destroyed. First of all, you need to realize that they have been limited themselves by just being selfish. They're blurred in vision. They don't see others. They don't see far. They only see the horizon around them, everything around them, about them, and preserving that, giving it comfort, making sure that it's protected, and fiercely gathering and amassing and taking and deceiving and backbiting and boasting, so that they can appear to be great by and of themselves. And in the end, it is insatiable, and it keeps increasing in that insatiability, and in the end, the person destroys not just the surrounding, but also they destroy themselves. So the spirit of selfishness is the spirit of limitation. Let us continue in the next episode. Stay tuned.
Thank you for listening to Life Signatures Radio. If you enjoyed today's show, subscribe to Life Signatures Radio on iTunes, Stitcher, or visit our website at lifesignatures.libsyn.com. Life Signatures Radio, fresh, clean, and inspiring.